Thank you. So we were going to start just doing introductions again. I'm Elizabeth Whitey. I'm with the Parks and Ben, and I am the Firewise coordinator. Okay.
Jeffrey Olle with Eagle Crest CWP Community Wildfire Protection Committee.
Great.
I'm Craig Rinkert with the Shoots Market Road Wildfire Community.
Frank Amarada, Tilcomb Village HOA and Firewise lead.
Les Adams from River Forest Acres, which is an informal little neighborhood down there off South Century Drive.
Diane Holmes with the Bridges and the Firewise coordinator.
Robin Church, Three Pines HOA.
Sherry Mullen, Widget Creek Homeowners Association. I'm the Firewise lead.
Jeff Conrad, Aubrey Park, Firewise lead.
Karen Garber, Crooked Horseshoe Community and Sisters, and we're just starting, and I'm the Firewise lead.
Okay.
Kevin Moriarty, County Forester.
I am Craig Letts. I'm the owner of Tamarack Wildfire Consulting.
And I am Melissa Steele, Fire Inspector, Ben Fire and Rescue. In the back.
I'm John Ross, Touchmark, Firewise Committee. I'm actually standing in for a committee member.
Hi, Ellie Gaines. I'll be Firewise Coordinator #2 in DRW, and I'm having great success.
I know, we're so excited.
My goal is to get all the houses along the River Canyon, which you'd be surprised there are over 75 houses, I think, or more. So we're moving. We're getting. I'm about to apply. I'll apply probably in May.
Okay.
Yeah, yay.
Peter Bohm, Hillside Park, HOA Firewise Coordinator.
I'm Corinne Heiner, Deschutes County Fire Adapted Communities Coordinator.
I'm Austin Reimer, Stewardship Forester, Sisters, Oregon Department of Forestry.
Great, thank you. So with that, the prior meeting minutes went out. Did anybody have any questions, comments, anything you want to talk about with them? All right. So let's see, the next item is the coalition mission and objectives, and we start off with recruitment. So we were asking if any new members are attending.
Yeah, is it anyone's first time? Welcome.
Welcome.
Also, if you're on the Zoom, can you please do your intro in the chat for us?
What's the name of your
Any other new members?
I guess I'm a member.
Okay, yeah.
I'm the Firewise lead for my neighborhood. And
You're Les
Les Adams.
Adams. Great. How'd you hear about us, Les?
I don't know where I did originally. I've been trying for months to get here and have had conflicts every month. I'm on the UDRC board, Upper Deschutes River Coalition.
Great.
And have taken over all the informal fire efforts within our neighborhood. Unofficial leader.
Good. And did you meet when she was out in Sisters? Okay, cool.
Yep.
Yeah. That's great.
Yep.
Okay, recruitment ideas, examples. Does anybody have anything they want to talk about with recruitment? We just had that meeting, and I can't remember what it's called, the fair.
The Wildfire Preparedness Fair.
Yes.
Yeah, and so we were getting, with recruitment, we're getting our flyers out there of who we actually are, and we have a flyer that I think is done and is being printed. Is that correct?
Yes, it's should be done next week.
So
I approved it yesterday.
awesome. So it looks a lot like the Project Wildfire flyers that, that they've already done. So it's the same color, so people know that we are part of Project Wildfire. But it just says who we are, how many people are involved. It's pretty empowering. So for recruitment, I think just handing those out, we have our different types of events. Oh. So yeah, if you have an event coming up in your neighborhood or would like to, let us know. We'd love to give you some of those flyers to start recruiting people that are interested in becoming Firewise.
Okay, that was going to be my silly question. Is the recruitment to become a member of this monthly coalition meeting or to be Firewise community if you're not involved with Firewise?
That's a great question. So I think what we were wanting is a representative from as many Firewise communities or intending to be Firewise so that we represent all over Deschutes County as part of this kind of committee. And then they will bring the information back. Of course, anybody can get on these meetings, but I think it's important to just have that person of contact representative for each community to bring back education and resources and things like that.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, and also there's gonna be another one in Lapine,
Yes,
right, May something.
May 11th.
May
We'll
11th.
bring, yeah, we can bring up all those coming up at the end. I just have to
Okay,
pull it up on my computer and that's what
Okay,
it
great.
does.
So I have a question about potential recruitment. Does the Aubrey Butte HOA include West Hills and City Heights?
I don't know. Does anybody know?
I don't know. I know
That's a long
it's
question.
very large. I
Yeah.
think I heard it's like 800 and some homes, but I don't know the exact geography.
Yeah, it's mostly just the top. I couldn't say for sure where it ends. I have a map of it on my phone that I'll try to pull up at some point to get, during the meeting, to get a better idea of that, but it's mostly just the top of Aubrey Butte. It goes down Archie Briggs a little bit.
Yeah, I drive through the West Hills almost every day, and it looks like there's plenty of fruit to be picked in that area.
Yeah.
So that's Lon's neighborhood, right?
Yeah.
The guy who's not here tonight, today is Firewise coordinator for that neighborhood.
Oh, good.
Well, for
Sorry.
Aubrey Butte.
For Overview.
Yeah, but not west.
I don't know what
West
these-
side.
No, but he could answer the question on
He could
geography.
probably answer the
Yeah.
question, yeah, I don't know. Yeah, but I'll ask Lon that question. So it was West Hills, and what was the other one?
City Heights is the neighborhood that's squeezed in between West Hills and Summit.
Okay, find out. Let's see. So we talked about that, then we're talking about education. So with education, we're probably moving on to Jaimie.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. She is joining us online today.
Hi, everyone. There's a little bit of an echo. Hopefully y'all can hear me. Yeah, I apologize for not joining in person. I was hoping to be there, but my last meeting ran long, so I'm joining virtually today. But I appreciate the invitation to join this group. I was hoping to chat a little bit about our upcoming prescribed burning here on the Deschutes National Forest, and give a little bit of an overview about where that might be happening and some resources for you all to stay connected. So hopefully, if all goes well, I will share my screen. Let me know if folks can see a presentation.
Yes.
Yes.
Awesome. All right. And hopefully you can see it as a presentation and not just looking at PowerPoint.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. All right. So for a little bit of context and background about why we'll be moving into our prescribed burning season, I'm sure this group is well aware of these things, but I do just want to give a brief overview that here in Central Oregon, we do live in a fire-dependent ecosystem. So historically on this landscape, we would have seen a fire return interval of every 5 to 20 years. And so that would have been across the landscape, both from lightning-caused fires as well as indigenous cultural burning. And what that would have meant is the tree stands and density of vegetation would have been a lot less than what we see today on our landscape. About 100 years ago, with the arrival of Euro-Americans, what we saw was a decrease in that ability for those lightning fires, for that indigenous cultural burning to move across the landscape and keep that regiment that would have kept down that fuel loading. So What we're seeing on our forest is a lot of overstock stands, which not only create really unhealthy trees as they're all out competing each other for nutrients, sunlight, water, but also a really heavy increase of fuels. That vegetation that, should a wildfire start in those areas, burns with a higher severity, and ultimately at the end of the day, really puts a risk to our communities, the places we love, our drinking water sources, all of those things that we hold near and dear here in Central Oregon. So prescribed burning is a critical tool in our restoration process to really set ourselves up for success when a wildfire does start. When we talk about the restoration timeline, that's kind of the full suite of treatments that we'll do on a landscape to bring back that natural 5 to 15-year interval of disturbance. And so this kind of shows an overview of what that looks like throughout the process. The first piece of it is always going to start with our National Environmental Policy Act planning process. And that's the time period where we come together as an interdisciplinary group, everyone from wildlife biologists, silviculturists, our fire folks, recreation staff, our whole suite of biologists come together and kind of talk through what a plan might be to treat a specific area. This is also the best time for the community to engage on our projects. It's where we have our comment periods. It's where we're seeking feedback from external folks to understand what you might want to see on that project or any concerns you might have with some of the proposed actions that we might be putting forward. So anytime we do any kind of work on our landscape, we're going to go through this process. And with some of our larger restoration projects, that process can take anywhere from 1 to 3 years, just depending on how big of a scope we're looking at, what kind of treatments we're looking at. So once we go through that process and we have identified our plan and the prescriptions and things that we want to see on the landscape, the first kind of visible piece of that work for folks will be the thinning piece. And so that's where we're going to come in and we're going to restore that tree stand density to what would have historically been on the landscape, because that's what would naturally been occurring. It would have naturally provided the right nutrients to keep our trees alive. And again, provide that opportunity to stop wildfire. After we finish that thinning component, we're going to come in and do mowing and mastication work. And so that could be anything from using just a small scale brush mower behind a tractor all the way up to a large scale masticator. And that's going to come in and remove some of the density of brush that'll be on the landscape, what we consider ladder fuels, or should the opportunity for wildfire start within those fuels, they could potentially move up into the tree canopies. And so we're going to remove those through that mowing process. And that really sets us up for success when we come in with prescribed burning. The goal with prescribed burning is to bring low intensity fire back to the landscape. Our landscape is one that needs fire. Everyone loves a good ponderosa tree, and those trees need that fire to be their healthiest and to reproduce. So once we've done those first few steps, we'll come in and bring fire back on the landscape. And then I want to be sure that I don't miss the maintenance phase. So like I was mentioning, every 5 to 15 years, we would have had that historical return interval of fire. So just because we come in and treat an area, we do prescribed burning, we're not just going to leave it and call it good and be done with it. So particularly as we're thinking about places in West Bend, we have some locations in Sun River. You may have remembered, if you've lived in the area for 5 to 10 years, that we've already applied fire to those landscapes. Well, we're going to come back in and do what we call a second entry burn, and we're going to keep reapplying fire to those landscapes to really mimic that interval that we would have seen historically and keep those fuels from building back up. When we think about prescribed burning, it's something that is really carefully planned and implemented under very specific conditions. Our firefighters work very closely with the Oregon Department of Environmental Quality and Oregon Department of Forestry smoke management smoke forecasters. And they are the ones who give us the permission to burn each day. So they're going to look at how much we're planning to burn, look at where we're planning to burn, and compare that with smoke modeling, weather models, and see if it's an appropriate day to lift that smoke up and away from communities, or if it's a day where they anticipate more smoke impacts. And in that case, they may say, you're not allowed to burn today, or you may need to burn somewhere else that's further away from a community. So it's a very close relationship between our firefighters and those smoke forecasters to identify windows when we want to burn. We're also looking at things like vegetation moisture. So we want enough moisture in that vegetation that it burns with a lower intensity, but we do need it to be dry enough to actually burn so that we're actually doing good work. So there's a lot of parameters that factor into where we're going to burn and when we're going to burn. And with that too, we're gonna, again, work with those smoke managers to do everything we can to minimize smoke impacts, but at the end of the day, it's fire on the landscape. Central Oregon is a fire-dependent ecosystem, and there will still be some smoke impacts. So we'll share some smoke preparedness resources in this presentation as well. With all of these parameters being so tight and really only having those very specific windows, it's really hard to identify an opportunity for a prescribed burn anywhere beyond the 24 to 72 hour time frame. So we're going to let you know as soon as we have a burn planned, but it's really going to be that 1 to 3 days out that we'll know for certain that it looks like an operation is going to occur. And it could be too that we get to that day and suddenly conditions have changed, and then we're going to reassess, and maybe that's something that we don't do that day, even though we had planned to. So it really is something that is continually evolving and looking at all of those conditions continuously until we actually start lighting. And even then, we might get through half of a unit, and we had planned for 400 acres, and at 200 acres, the conditions are no longer favorable, and we're going to stop ignitions at that time. So it really is something that is continual conversation between our firefighters and those smoke forecasters and weather forecasters. When we think about how we can stay in touch around prescribed burning, our main resource is our centraloregonfire.org website. There's a couple of different ways you can plug into that website. We post all of our press releases about prescribed burning on there, and you can also go on to that website and sign up so that you'll receive an email anytime I post those press releases. So you don't even have to think to check, it'll just show up in your inbox. You can also text CO Fire to 888-777. And any morning that we're going to conduct an understory prescribed burn on the forest, I will send out a text alert to let you know where we're burning, how many acres, and if there's any significant smoke impacts that we anticipate. We also have a accompanying X, Twitter, whatever we're calling it, account that follows along with some of our day of ignitions. So we're going to let folks know on that account that we've started ignitions, that they're favorable, and we're going to continue. Maybe, about midday, we're going to let you know how they're progressing, if there's any smoke impacts, that kind of information. You can get all that in a little bit of a play-by-play format on that platform. When we think about where we're burning this spring, we hope to accomplish quite a bit of prescribed fire across the Deschutes National Forest. But if we think about the Bend Fort Rock Ranger District, which is kind of that area right around Bend, Sun River, Lapine, this map gives a bit of an overview of some of the different areas we're looking to burn. And those are those orange hashed areas. And I know it might be a little bit hard to see online, but these maps are available on that centraloregonfire.org website, as well as an interactive prescribed burn map that has a little bit more detail and allows you to zoom in on things. So if you're not getting a good picture of it here, you can certainly go on there and get a little bit more in the weeds of where the units are. But this is kind of a broad overview of everywhere that we're hoping to accomplish some work. And then I did want to dive in specifically into our West Bend operations, as we'll be doing a significant amount of work out there as well. And just for context too, when we think about burning in West Bend, this map shows some of our historic fire starts in that area. So that larger one, hopefully folks may have heard or may have lived through, may know about the Opry Hall fire, is that kind of orangish color. And then to note too is all the small dots, all the smaller fires that happen out there in that 2012 to 2022 timeframe that you probably never heard about because our firefighters were able to catch them and keep them small, keep them under, half an acre to a tenth of an acre because of a lot of our great work that's gone out in this area already. And when we think about, that restoration timeline that I mentioned earlier, this blue kind of chunked up area shows all the places that have already had that thinning work completed. And some of them have already had prescribed fire as well, but a lot of them will receive their first prescribed fire treatments either this spring or in the springs to come. And so moving into this spring, these are some areas that we hope to treat in the West Bend area. Again, it'll be a little bit easier probably to look up online and be able to pick out different areas you're interested in. But for reference, my cursor is over the Cascade Lakes Welcome Station. Oops, go back. The Cascade Lakes Welcome Station is here. This is the Cascade Lakes Highway running out this way. And this is Forest Service Road 41 that provides access down to the river trails here. So you'll see that there's some significant operations hopefully planned for these areas. Again, we're only going to get a handful likely of good days for those operations to occur, if at all. And while we'll be working with smoke forecasters to really pick wind conditions that will push smoke away from town as much as possible, we do anticipate that there will be some smoke impacts, especially as these units sit right along the Deschutes River, and that tends to funnel smoke directly into town. So again, we'll do our best to mitigate where we can, but do want folks to be prepared for these operations to occur and have the resources to be smoke ready for them. We also have burning across our Sisters Ranger or our Crescent Ranger district as well. They have some operations slated for around the 9758 junction, as well as some other burning in the Gilchrist State Forest and around their Two Rivers subdivision. And then in our Sisters Ranger district, it might be a little bit hard to parse out as well, just because there's a lot of details on this map, but they have units kind of spread across the board, including in the Metolius Basin and along Highway 20, as well as a number of units kind of adjacent to the community of Sisters in what we call our Sisters Area Fuel Reduction Project area. So with that, that smoke preparedness piece, we've been working really closely with Sarah Worthington at Deschutes County Public Health to really help bolster some of those resources and that communications and messaging. But some of the key takeaways, you know, if we're doing ignitions that are near your community, we definitely recommend closing doors and windows, as we typically see our heaviest smoke impacts in the overnight and early morning hours. And if there's any way to keep your indoor air as clean as possible, that's one of the good ways to start, is to keep all of those doors and windows closed. A really great tool to check out is fire.airnow.gov. This will give you the air quality for where you currently are, or the AQI levels. That'll help kind of determine what actions you might need to take, and what you're looking at as far as air quality and where might be a good place to go for that day that might have better air quality than somewhere else. And I highly encourage you, if you're on our centraloregonfire.org website, we have a ton of resources around smoke preparedness and protecting your public health when it comes to prescribed burning and wildfire season. Sarah's really teed it up nicely that we know when prescribed burns are going to happen, and that can give us that opportunity to prepare for smoke, versus a wildfire where we don't necessarily when we're going to get those impacts, as they could be coming, you know, from the west side of Oregon, from somewhere else in the west, or even from Canada. And so if we already know the steps that we want to take when smoke arrives, we'll be a little bit better set up for success when we hit wildfire season. And just another plug for centraloregonfire.org. Again, that really is the hub for all of our prescribed burning information. If you do one thing, I would highly recommend signing up for those text alerts so that you'll always be in the know. But there's a lot of other great information on there as well, including that interactive map that shows all of the units where we will be burning, as well as some of those maps that I just showed up here. So I know that was a little fast, but yeah, happy to open it up if there are any questions.
I follow some of the AQI sites I have loaded onto my phone because when I want to go out and do outdoor activities, as we get into fire season, I'm looking to see if the smoke is in a particular area. Some of the sites are pretty limited in where sensors are. Does the fire.airnow.gov site have more sensors than others?
I believe it does. Yeah. So I know like the Oregon Smoke Blog, one that they use only picks up permanent sensors, I believe. And some of the other apps might only pick up permanent sensors, but fire.airnow.gov picks up some of the temporary sensors and monitors. And I know we've deployed extra ones as we're looking to burn in West Bend. We're also asking a few folks to also host them in their homes so we can do some data collection. So yeah, fire.airnow.gov is usually the one I use just because you can see some of those temporary ones.
All right, thank you.
When thinning is done, what types or size of trees are removed?
It's really going to depend on where you are in the landscape. So during that NEPA process, we develop what we call a prescription, and that's going to identify what size of trees, what species of trees, what that essential landscape needs to look like after they conduct that work. So there isn't a blanket answer across the board. It really is going to be dependent on the project area.
And is the thinning what results in the brush piles that we see along the road?
Yeah, that's a great question. Yeah, so I didn't put in this timeline here, but yeah, when you see those piles, some of the smaller ones will be made by hand, and some of those bigger ones that can be, the size of your house are made by machines. And that's typically all of the unmerchantable pieces left over after thinning. So things like limbs and that couldn't be made into a forest product. And so our firefighters typically go in and burn those in the winter months when there's snow on the ground. So those burn down so that when we do come in and do prescribed burning, there's not that heavy concentration of that fuel so that it'll burn super hot in that one area. It'll already be off the landscape.
Another question. Let's say your responsibility, your group is National Forest lands?
Correct. The Deschutes National Forest specifically.
Okay, I was trying to ascertain because where we live between, I'm up in Aubrey Park, and we have Sawyer Uplands Park, and then down right below us, down a hill, large hill, is Lower Sawyer Park. And so there's a lot of forest in there, but it's owned by Ben Parks and Rec. And they said they mitigated for fire back in 2019 when we requested it, but it was kind of sketchy what they really did. So I'm just trying to draw the line of your responsibility, their responsibility. They're totally responsible for any of their public lands.
Yeah, I would coordinate with them on any work that they've done. We've certainly done work in partnership with them. We've helped them prescribed burn in Shevlin Park previously. I want to say that was 2017, around there. So we certainly work in partnership with them. But yeah, I don't know anything about that landscape, so sorry.
No, I just wanted to understand it.
There was I know last year there was a treatment in Lower Sawyer Park for irrigation. I don't know.
Yeah, right in that immediate area, they actually did some thinning operation.
Yeah.
But it was really confined to a limited area. The area that goes uphill, there wasn't too much of anything that went on. So we're in contact with them now. I'm thinking it's probably a manpower budget issue that they only can go so far.
We've experienced that with the Shevlin Park conservation easement.
Yeah.
So. Do you have any more questions?
Is there a counterpart to you with BLM, and do they do anything out east?
They do, yeah. So there isn't quite a counterpart of me at the moment. Their public affairs officer position is vacant, but they do fuels reduction as well. So yes.
Were there any questions online? All right. Thank you, Jaimie. That was a really good presentation.
Thank you,
Appreciate
Jaimie.
Thanks for coming, Jaimie.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. I appreciate your time.
Thank you. Do we want to give people her contact information if they have follow-up questions or?
Yeah, hey, Jaimie, do you want to put your contact info in the chat for us?
I absolutely will. Yeah.
Thanks, Jaimie, I didn't want. Okay, well, that was very interesting. So the next one is Melissa. Are you gonna be talking about that? So
Yeah.
Melissa's gonna talk now. Did you bring any of these?
Yes, so those are on the back table there, and
These are the
then
brochures.
brochures for the first 5 feet campaign. I am going to attempt to share my screen. And then we are gonna go through. So this PowerPoint that I'm putting together it's in draft form, but I'm really curious to see what you guys think or say or have any questions or input, because this is going to certain communities where homes are pretty close together. And so let me bring this up. Okay. Should be, there we go. So, Own Your Zone First 5 Feet campaign is something that I came up with the last 2 years of questions, same questions over and over and over. You know, either I live really close to my neighbor and they're not doing anything, or they're always waiting for someone, or the other thing is that I hear a lot is, I don't live in the forest, so I don't need to do anything about defensible space. And that couldn't be farther from the truth. And so I wanted to change the culture of what this defensible space means, especially in communities that are really close together. And so Own Your Zone has always been a Bend Fire thing. I took it one more step and did the First 5 Feet campaign. And so this is only talking about Zone 1. So on the brochures, it does mention Zone 2 and 3 as well, the intermediate and extended, but we're specifically talking about this zone and why this is important. So there's my information there. If anyone needs it, that's my direct office line. So the purpose and objectives of this is to educate homeowners on the science of structure-to-structure ignition. And so Dr. Jack Cohen, he's a retired Forest Service, and he has done so much research on not necessarily we have a wildfire problem, but more of a structure-to-structure ignition problem. Your home is fuel, and it's probably the biggest source of fuel we have out in the forest, to be honest. And so why is that so important to, to protect? Well, the radiant heat and conductive heat that comes off of a structure is just, when that gets started, goes to the next structure and the next. So this is to educate those homeowners on why that's important. The next one is to explain the term home hardening and the relationship to flying embers. And so 90% of homes actually burn down because of embers, not because of the flames that you see in Hollywood and in videos. That's not what that really looks like. If you look at all the research from the Marshall Fire, the Camp Fire, the fires around here in 2020, the actual burning down and destruction of communities was done by embers. And so we can harden our homes. And so I'm going to go into what that term means. And then also informing why the immediate zone of 0 to 5 is the most vulnerable. And then also to empower communities to take a stand against wildfire devastation. So we cannot 100% get rid of wildfires. It's just never going to happen. However, our communities do not have to be destroyed, essentially. We have a say in those. And so this is really what that campaign is about. So what is structure-to-structure ignition? Basically, where a fire can spread from one structure to another because of either close proximity, radiant heat, or firebrands. And firebrands is the technical term for embers. So you might hear that now and then, and that's what that means. So I put these pictures up here because this is pretty interesting. The one on the left is the Camp Fire. That's my neighborhood where I lost my house. And what is the interesting thing in that photo? Look at all of the healthy ponderosa trees. They're all fine. They're not even, they might be a little scorched, but the fire did not carry from those trees. And so that is a myth in wildfire, devastation is that, all this fuel, and yes. However, those homes are so close together, and a couple of those on the bottom, they share that first 5 feet, right? That is a hazard, a zone that they share. So once one of those structures goes on a windy day, that's when we see this, it fans those flames to the next structure. And then if you look at Waldo Canyon Fire in Colorado, that all those homes in the middle are completely destroyed. And so you can just see how there's not a ton of vegetation in there. It obviously came from the north side of that picture right there and came on down. But structure-to-structure ignition is what we want to target. And so what home hardening is where vegetation management compliance and non-combustible building materials are used to resist the intrusion of flames or embers projected by a wildland fire. So that's a long sentence. Basically, what this shows is all the things that we can do to take a stand on our own homes, our own properties, and the priority of how we should get them done and when we should get them done. So if you look at that photo, the high priority is basically in red there, you can see is represented in red. And so what is it showing? It's showing our gutters, right? Our roof. What vegetative material is on that? What pine needles are on there where embers or firebrands can land? Our vents, what kind of screening do we have on those vents to keep the embers out? Any attachments, like an attached fence right to the house also. And then the vegetation that's really close by in that first 5 feet. And again, that's what we're talking about, 0 to 5. So from the siding or the roof out 5 feet. So it's kind of a neat little diagram that shows the priority of things and how it doesn't have to be expensive. And we don't have to do this all at once. If we take care of one of those priorities a year, that is progress. I love this slide. I think this is so cool, and I'm trying to get a field trip to the Insurance Institute with us fire people so that we can actually see this ember generator in action. So what this is they have an ember generator that throws millions of little teeny tiny embers at a structure that on the left-hand side there is ordinary construction. It's not home hardened. And then on the other side is the home hardened. And so both sides of the house are receiving the exact same amount of embers, okay? They only used 15-mile-an-hour winds. So what are our winds around here? No, a little higher than that.
Yeah.
So basically what you're seeing is on the ordinary construction side, the embers are causing the bark mulch to ignite. That bark mulch is in the first 5 feet normally, right? Bark mulch causes the deck to ignite. What is our deck made out of? If it's made out of wood that has not been maintained or has a lot of vegetation around it to sustain heat, we really want to pay attention to that. Do we have combustible siding that ignites next? And then direct radiant heat to our windows. When we have direct radiant heat to our windows, like big juniper shrubs underneath our windows, things like that, you will see those windows fail. And in research has showed it doesn't matter if they're metal or vinyl or wood. They all fail at some point, whether they crack, catch on fire, or melt. And then the window panes fall down and embers can come inside the home. This is, of course, because there's no fire suppression happening yet, right? So this is really important to know that you're gonna get fire suppression eventually. But who knows, if there's a massive wildfire coming towards a community, we're focused on evacuations, right? And so we wanna make sure everybody gets out. Not a lot of time is there actual firefighting going on. And that is a fact. And those are the large ones. I'm not saying on the small fires, obviously we're trying to put the fire out, but if a community is threatened, we're getting people out. So you are buying time by hardening your home. You're giving the firefighters time to get there. And so then on the other side, you can see there's no ignition in the rock mulch. They have rock there. I think it's a crushed granite they had in there. The deck is wood, but it doesn't have enough heat to ignite. The fire resistive siding is fiber cement, which is wonderful. And then there's no radiant heat. And so that side was much cooler. So it's just kind of a neat thing to see. And I put that picture on the brochure as well, because I thought it was a pretty impactful photo.
The video at that website is really impressive.
Isn't that amazing?
It shows it right from the start
Yeah.
of ignition. And
Yeah.
It's impressive how quickly.
The research coming out of that place is just so cool. Yeah, I kind of geek out on it all the time and just watch it at home, because I'm bored. But my husband's like, stop working. I'm not. I love it. So I'm educating myself. So here's the immediate zone, that 0 to 5. So we stay focused on the closest. So that's going to be cleaning leaves and pine needles and things like that off of your roof and gutters. Repairing loose or missing roof shingles, windows, or screens. And that's for any vulnerabilities for embers or firebrands to get inside there. Installing that 1/8-inch metal mesh screening over your attic crawl space and eave vents. Removing flammables away from wall exteriors and under decks. Right, we talked about that in the other photo. And then using non-combustible ground cover. So this could be pavers, just mineral soil, just regular soil, and crushed stone, rock, things like that. So in this picture, you can see they have a lot of pine needles, right? That's somewhere in the forest. They have manzanita, they've got flammable vegetation, but that first 5 feet is pretty hardened. So that's a good example. So these are some good examples: non-combustible rock around the siding, and then non-combustible rock under decking. The one on the photo on the right is one in Tethro that I took. It was an assessment that I did, and he did such a good job. I asked if I could use his photo, and he said yes. So he put all this rock under that deck. So if embers go under there, there's no vegetation, there's nothing for it to sustain energy, and the fire goes out. That was a great job. Bad examples. Bark mulch against siding, right? Even though it looks nice, that can hold heat for a very long time. We call those fires holdovers. Embers will sit in there for a week. We get a gust of wind, and now we have flames up against the side of your home or a flammable bush. So we just want to get rid of that bark mulch. And then you see the bark mulch and flammable vegetation together right there against the side of the home. So that's a big no-no. And then we have the ugly examples. And so these are flammable vegetation in the immediate zone right here. When we talk about these types of vegetation, these ornamental junipers and arborvitaes and things like that, they can put up 3 times the flame length of how tall they are, so 3 times their height. So that is an actual cigarette that was thrown into that bush. That's no accelerant used or anything, that's just what the fire behavior does. And those are around lots of houses in all these communities. And then obviously the one on the right there is flammable vegetation everywhere. So those are the things we don't want. We want to target those first. So working together, many communities share that immediate zone and the intermediate zone, so maybe 0 to 5 or 5 to 30, so we really want to work together. Many people are waiting for their neighbors to do their part first. That is something I hear about all the time, and what I say to them is, but have you done yours? Have you hardened your home? Because in reality, if there's embers being thrown, your home should survive, right? And I look at their home and it's not even close. So before we want to complain about somebody else to do something, we got to take our, take our properties seriously and make sure that if we're gone on vacation in the summer and there's a fire in the area, the last thing, trust me, I've been through this, you're thinking is, did I rake those pine needles? Did I move that pile of leaves? Your mind goes crazy. I've been there. And so you don't want to think about that. So there's NFPA Firewise program we talk a lot about in here. And then there's the Project Wildfire Neighborhood Coalition, which we are all here today. So that's kind of wrapping it up for the draft of this PowerPoint. I want some feedback from you guys if there's things I can add or things you see in your communities for that first 5 feet area that would really empower your neighbors or people. It doesn't have to be today. If you guys want to put together something and email it to me, I can go back to my screen here and you guys can email me directly. So there's my information right there.
I have a question. In our neighborhood, people are reluctant to clear the whole 0 to 5 feet. And so what I try to encourage is at least if you're gonna have things there, have them be fire resistant plants, perennials and that sort of thing. I mean, the pictures that you showed, you're showing nothing there. And it's like in our neighborhood, people are gonna be like,
I love that feedback. And so I will add, I'm gonna write that down. I will add some information about fire resistant plants in that area. I love that. Yeah, I'm gonna write that down.
because also I think it helps for shade. I mean, it's like we had some bushes in
Yeah.
front of our house and we were thinking we should take them out. And then I looked, they were fire resistant.
Yeah.
And they're on the west side. It's like they did provide shade for our house. So we keep them very well pruned and cleaned underneath, but feel like maybe those shouldn't be yanked out just because they're in that 0 to 5 feet.
Maybe Melissa needs to come take a picture of yours.
Yeah, photograph your neighborhood. No, I think that's really important because we need to be realistic, right? And so what we want to do is give people options. It's not just get rid of everything that is, flammable in the first 5 feet, but making better choices. I would like to see there really be nothing in the first 5 feet. That's just me because from the experience that I've seen and fighting fire for 22 years, and that includes synthetic cushions on your furniture, all those things. And so maybe adding some of that information in here, but yes, adding that option that if they are going to plant some plants to make sure they're fire resistant, and I can put the link to the fire resistant plant guide in there too. I like that. Thank you.
I like the cushions on the furniture too.
It's a big one. We saw that a lot. And the other thing, not only cushions, but the awnings that people have, close those awnings if you leave so that embers don't sit and settle right on top of them. That's pretty important too.
And your propane tanks for your barbecue.
Yep, all those things. Yep, I like it.
Your little doormats, natural material doormats.
The decorative pine cones in a bowl right next to the door. Come on, you've all done it. So so I love the link for plants. I'll put that on there. I'll add some pictures of that because you're right, that is more realistic. So you get more buy-in.
So Melissa, you had one of your 3rd or 4th slides in, showed the picture of the house and the roof and the gutters and talked about hardening there. I had a new roof put on our house last week. And I looked, now I wasn't up on the ladder, but I looked up there and a question came up because I guess their vent pipes are about that big around, they're black, they come up about that high. There's nothing on the tops of those. I'm assuming that there's an airflow going out of there that prevents something from going in. I don't know that for a fact. So I guess that's one question.
Yes, so they are for positive pressure ventilation, for that stuff to come out. That's what it's for. But that's not to say that embers couldn't go down in there. Exactly.
And then the other is I have about a
So-
4-foot pipe
And it's-
that goes up high and it's got a kind of a canister on top and it's
Mm-hmm.
got some openings and it's some kind of a vent. I don't know. I haven't investigated exactly
Yeah.
what it is. Shame on me. But it looks like it has some openings on that. Is there some place, do they make shrouds that are tight screened that go over that? Versus I could probably fabricate something, but it seems like I should have something on
Yeah.
there.
No, great question. So there's all kinds of openings and things on our homes. And so firewise, when we talk about fireways, we don't educate on every single one of them, and maybe we should. But any openings that you have, it's always gonna be recommended best practices to cover that with the 1/8" screening. And so I was on an assessment yesterday in Woodside Ranch, and they took the screening and put it all over on top of their wood burning stove as extra protection, for a spark arrestor. But I saw that and I asked him and I said, where did you buy that? Because it's real flimsy. It was real easy to use. And he said he bought it at a local hardware store. So my recommendation would be, just like we say on any type of venting or openings, any openings where birds can get in, to screen that with the 1/8" metal screening is best practices right now. So I would look and see exactly what those vents are for, and then go from there and see if you can screen them. And if 1/8" screening would be a problem with that.
Okay.
Yeah, that'd be my
There's-
recommendation.
There's a material that we used just recently on our own home, and it's called Quick Mesh. It's a Gibraltar building product. You can find it at Home Depot, Lowe's in the venting section, in the vent section. I had previously looked for 1/8" mesh, metal mesh, in a different section of the store, couldn't find it.
Yeah.
But it was after the wildfire preparedness seminar. It kind of convinced my husband to get on board with me.
Right
So it was
on.
a negotiation, but anyway.
And that's metal too, that's me.
It is metal,
Okay.
it's 1/8" mesh screening, and it's very flexible, and it's easy to cut with tin snips.
Yeah.
And so it took him all of 2 hours to cover all of our foundation
That's
vents.
awesome.
And so we've just instructed our neighborhood how to do that.
Yeah.
Great. So, but I did not know about the pipes
Mhm.
on top of the roof.
There's so
And
many openings in homes, and firewise, NFPA does not hit on every single one of them.
My next question is in the attic. Where do you find these vents and how do you get to them? Because we've been upstairs in the attic and, you can crawl out so far and then you're on joist and on insulation.
I am not a building inspector, that's a great question. What I tell people is, if you don't have a crawl space to them, then they probably went in from the outside. And so look and see how they went in, and then maybe even hire a contractor to come out and take a look at it, because if they're there, they can be screened. We just have to figure out a way to do it, whether it's from the inside or outside. If there is no crawl space, my guess is that they put them in from the outside.
Can't you see them underneath the eaves of the roof?
There's all different types. Yeah, there's strips, there's holes, there's.
Yeah, because my
Yeah.
husband just put mesh across the outside,
Mhm.
instead
And
of
that's-
trying to figure that out on the inside.
Yeah, and that's acceptable.
But there is a lot of newer construction that the roofs aren't vented.
Yeah, that is true.
So it's just really worth trying to figure out if your roof is in fact vented or not, and if it is, then it's tracking down the vents.
Yeah.
And then California State Fire Marshal's office actually certifies ventilation products. So if you look, I'm sure we could find the posting for it, but they have a list of approved vendors that make retrofit vents and new construction vents that are fire-wise approved by the California State Fire Marshal's office.
Because one of the things about venting or screening a vent on a roof is some of those are HVAC, aren't they? Or for, not HVAC, dryer vents? Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
And you
so
wanna
with
screen
dryer
those,
vents, yeah, if you're screening those with 1/8 inch, you're not allowing the stuff to come out,
Right.
whether it's lint or dog hair or whatever it is, it will build up. So you're constantly gonna have maintenance on cleaning those. So we do want you to avoid doing those, but a lot of those dryer vents are on a moving bullpup system where the air comes out and they open, and then when they're done, they shut. So, those we don't recommend you to screen.
Yeah.
And it's not best practices to screen them
Okay.
because that can cause another fire hazard.
They're good to get cleaned though.
Yes, please clean them when you change your batteries and your smoke detectors like I know you guys do, or set your clocks back and all that.
You'd be surprised how much stuff can be stuck in there.
Yeah.
It's,
I know there's a question back
Well, I
there.
was just gonna add to, I do have a question, but when I bought my house in DRW 2.5 years ago, and I bought it from people who built it 35 years ago, and I said, well, when was the last time you cleaned your dryer vent? She looked at me, she said, never clean it.
Yeah.
I'm glad the house is here.
That's why we have a fire department. We go on those.
It was
Wow.
pretty shocking looking at that.
It is,
Yeah.
and it's just education, you know, because you don't think about the many things that can burn your home down. You don't think about it.
Yeah, and so the other thing, too, you answered my question about where to find the screening, because I just asked at Ace Hardware this week and they don't have it.
Okay.
So, good to know Home Depot or Lowe's might carry that mesh screening. Would love that link that you mentioned about CAL FIRE approving certain vents and that kind of thing. And then the only other thing I was gonna suggest on here, Melissa, but and it may say this somewhere else, I may have just forgotten. I know we don't wanna create fear, but we do want to raise concern.
Mhm.
So on the very first slide, where it says, let's go back there and see. One before that, your title slide. Yep. Yeah, own your zone, first 5 feet. My thought was, and maybe this is changing too much of the use of this language right now, but own your zone, the first 5 feet, and in small, like parentheses, may save your home, or, something that.
I think that's actually on the brochure.
Oh,
And I just,
okay.
yeah, no, I think it is. You reminded me to put it on here. It's
Because the
either
first 5 feet
to
is like.
protect your home.
Yeah.
protect your home.
Yeah,
Okay.
okay, because
Yeah.
what people have said to me is like, oh, yeah, I
Yeah.
know that, but then you look at their first 5 feet and we're like, I don't think you realize how critical,
I love
essential that
it.
is.
I will put it on that
Yeah.
first slide.
And where is it on this one? You think it's on this
It's
one already?
on the,
On the
there's
brochure, it says
the booklet.
protect your home.
Yep,
Okay.
yeah.
But you do kind of have to look for it.
Protect your home, yeah.
So Melissa, I've got a question.
Yeah.
Your opinion about trash cans. Plastic trash cans.
I mean,
They're stored right next to the house.
the plastic burns. I mean, we see people put their ashes in them all the time and burns the side of their house down because they're too close to the home. So I mean, I think that we can't mitigate everything, but I think if your trash cans are far enough away from the home, and it does catch on fire for some reason, we wouldn't want it to affect the siding of your home or any bushes or anything. So I mean, yes, metal's non-combustible, so metal would be the first option, but a lot of companies aren't offering those. And so they're offering plastic, and plastic is fine. I mean, we sit in plastic every day, we're around plastic, we're around flammables all the time. If it catches on fire, what is the exposure to the home? And so keeping it far away from bushes and the siding is always a great idea. Are they locked? I mean, I don't know. There's communities that have had fires from kids playing with matches and lighting trash cans on fire. I mean, like those are things we see. So are they locked? Are they hidden? You only bring them out on trash day, that kind of thing. But yeah, I mean, plastic can melt. It doesn't sustain flame and catch on fire, but it will melt.
In the sketch of the home that had the relative hazards or the relative risk of the different hazards, it showed a horizontal wooden deck as being a lower hazard than a wooden fence. And I understand the attached wooden fence, but why wouldn't that horizontal deck trap embers and ignite that?
It does, and that's great to point out, and I've actually noticed that a few weeks ago. On this slide, this was put together by Marin County in California, and they had some research that stated that the fences were more of a hazard. I didn't read the article, and so I will read that article, but changing something like that might be a good idea, because we do tell people how important their decks are, and especially what's under your deck with flammable pine needles and whatever's under there. So I'll see if I can find a better one, or if I can change that color.
Melissa,
Yes.
what advice do you have about the vents at the very top of roofs? So.
Like the ridge vents?
Yeah, do they, I haven't looked at mine, but do they have, usually have, screening put in there?
So the ones that I have seen, yes, I have seen them with a metal mesh screening behind them, but I'm not gonna say every house is the same. So any vents that you have should be checked for that 1/8" metal screening for best practices. Yeah, I can't give you a better answer, sorry. But I would look for sure. I know a lot of building construction is changing, now there's requirements coming in for new construction. Right now they're talking about even going to 1/16 of an inch.
Yeah. you said that.
However, there's controversy on how often now things are gonna get stuck in there. So, yeah, I don't think that's actually gonna go into state code. I think we're gonna stick with 1/8" is what I've been seeing and what I've been hearing. So I would just check all the vents. I think it's good to know that, especially on the ridge vents, you've got some type of protection behind them.
You know, when I think about the pushback that I get in my neighborhood and I hear about others about landscaping and how people love their super flammable junipers sitting under their overhanging roofs next to their windows. 40 years ago, every nice house in Bend had cedar shake roofs, and we were buried in all sorts of flammable stuff. And now there's way, way less of that. And, just keep pushing and it'll change.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, there's city ordinances, now that state that once you replace your roof, if it's still cedar shingle, you cannot replace it back with that. And so those ordinances are there for a purpose, and it's good to see.
So walking the neighborhood yesterday for Firewise, signing up people.
All right.
I'm gonna help you reach your goal.
Thank
When
you.
retire.
She knows my goal. Before I retired, Deschutes River Woods is going to be Firewise, the entire 6,500 people.
Yeah.
That's my goal.
That's 2,000 homes.
Yeah.
So what I learned when I went up to one neighbor, she immediately pointed out a house that had just been built like within the last couple of years with a wood shake roof.
Are you sure?
But what she said
Because a
was
lot of
it's
this-
fire treated. So what does that mean if it's a fire treated wood shingle roof?
So I've been even fooled a couple times by driving through the neighborhood and been like, oh, they have wood shake shingles, and I go up there and it's cement. Because
Okay.
it looks really close to that, or it's a synthetic, or it is actually fire rated. But it's meant to look like the cedar shake. So I would definitely do the research and find out. I mean, they probably did. I don't know if they did or not, but.
They said they did, but all the neighbors around them mentioned that to me when I was walking around.
Yeah.
Mentioned their house.
Yep.
So the neighbors don't believe it is.
Yeah.
But
I don't know what
when
to
you
tell the
come out,
neighbors.
if you come out and do the walk around our neighborhood,
Yeah.
we'll just have you walk by that house.
Yeah, and the thing is we have to, we have to look at new construction. If it's new construction, it's not going to be cedar shake. So
Okay.
I have not seen that or heard of that in the last.
Okay, so hopefully it isn't. I mean, I hope
So
that that's
we
the
can look,
case.
we can
Yeah.
look. I'm not saying that's 100%, but we can look. But I have been fooled by roofs where
Okay.
there's a little spot in Bend, I cannot remember the HOA now, and they're awesome. They're very unique. Looks like little, like Hobbit village. You know what I'm talking about? It's
Oh.
so cool.
It's right next to us, yeah.
Yeah, it's so
Yeah.
cool. And I was doing an
Soft,
inspection.
Benham.
Yes, and I looked at their roofs and I'm like, there is no way that thatched roof with
Yeah, it looks like an
grass,
old English
straw,
village.
yeah. But it is, it's actually fire rated. And so, it's very cool to see the different things
So what
created.
does fire rated really mean? Like, I know my
Yeah.
TimberTech AZIC deck, which
So-
was the highest fire rating possible when I built that deck 2 years ago, still doesn't mean, it still could melt, it still could burn.
Yeah, so nothing is fireproof unless it's dirt or cement. So basically, roofing is classified as ABC, 1, 2, 3, basically, depending on where you're at. And A or 1 is going to be the most fire resistant roof. That is, composition roofs, that is asphalt shingle, that is clay tile, that is metal. All of those are going to be class 1, or class A rated. Yeah.
We have a question online.
Okay.
Oh, you're muted.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So we talked a lot about everything that is in the 0.5 around the house, but in my neighborhood, what we have a lot of fences that are attached to the house, attached to the house, attached to the house. And sometimes you're going to have like mugo trees that are along those fences, but since those fences, they're not in the 0 to 5 feet, but since those fences are attached to the house and then attached to the next house, is that still considered, or something that I should say to my neighbors, that, you know, you need to really get rid of that mugo?
Yes, great question. So any wooden attachments that are against the side of your home are considered your home. So the first 5 feet would actually start on the other, at the fence, and working your way out away from the home. So yes, if there is wooden, I just did, Austin and I, we walked through a neighborhood yesterday where the HOA says, you know, no metal, you can't have this, it's all wooden, and it's connecting the entire neighborhood. And so CC&Rs can get changed. We can change those things with a little bit of research and education. But yes, that is a fire hazard. If that fence or mugo pine or whatever the vegetation is catches on fire, it's just like a wick. I mean, I've seen it, we've seen it. I can put some more pictures on this PowerPoint too of what that looks like. So yes, it is correct that you would be wanting to tell them that the 0 to 5 starts after at the deck or at the fence if it's attached to the home and then worked its way out.
Okay, so even if the fence is surrounding the property, that is what I meant, is that it is not, so it's probably like 10 feet or from the property, so it is not on, you know, the 0 to 5. So that's where the neighbors are confused with that, because they tell me, well, this is not the 0 to 5 feet zone.
But if it's touching their house, then it is.
Right, right. If the fence is touching the house, yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly.
Okay.
So we could do things like replace where it's attached to the house, replace that with a metal gate, you know,
Okay.
something like that, break up that continuity of fuel.
I was gonna say, it'd be nice to have a picture of that,
Okay.
you know, a
I
slide,
have
of
a
what can you
picture.
do so that fencing isn't attached to your house, the wooden fencing? We have that all through our whole neighborhood.
Yep. Perfect. Thank you for that.
Yeah, I think like on that slide, and I just had this conversation with the neighbor across the street from me that would all the way around up to their house. So we talked about that, well, we're not gonna move the fence. I said, not the whole fence, just a gate.
Yeah.
But, so on this picture, for example, it would be really helpful to have maybe a gate that's metal. Does that make sense? To
Yes, it
show,
does.
here's your option, because I think people just see past fences because they're just always there,
Right.
you know?
And we have one house in our neighborhood where they have a metal fence, except for right next to the house.
Oh.
There you go.
That's funny.
Good luck with that.
Hey, Melissa, isn't it still part of best practice for that, to just have, for example, if you have a wooden fence attached to your siding, and just basically just try and get like a piece of metal painted like the same color as your house, like to go behind there to give it a fire break? Is that
Yeah,
still
so
accepted
flashing and
practice?
things like that,
Yeah.
people put up flashing. I know that some houses have put flashing between their wooden 4x4 posts
Yeah.
and the rest of their fence. I mean, it's still, if that's on fire, it's gonna be radiant heat, it's gonna be close, but that metal, it does conduct heat. So yes, it's somewhat of a protection, but it's still, I mean, that's getting really close to the side of the house
Sure.
still. So the more room you can give, the better. But yeah, I have seen people do that. I've actually seen them use that metal flashing where their wooden deck connects with the siding too on their house. Because that's where those embers are gonna fall. That's where they're gonna eddy and they're gonna land on a non-combustible metal surface and lose energy. So that's another thing I've seen. Yep.
I would just say, when you're rolling out to your community, and I know you just did our community, and we had standing room only in the back, and it was filled, and there were several people that came in skeptical. And after they listened to you, including my husband, they changed their mind. I mean, they get it,
Well, it's just
so.
education, right? I mean, that's what this group is
Yes.
about. It's reaching out to people and letting them know that there are little things that we can do. And I'm so glad we had over 60 people at that, and that was awesome. And the goal again is not to scare people, but it is to let them know reality. And people like to ask me about Paradise and the evacuations, and it's like, yeah, that was the most terrifying thing ever. Do I see that happening here in Bend? Maybe in some neighborhoods, maybe not in others, just depending on the topography, the wind patterns, the vegetation. So I just think it's really good to be ready for anything and harden our homes as best we can. Yep. All right.
Any other questions?
Questions or comments?
you guys want some brochures, let me know and I can get them to you to pass out.
Thank you, Melissa, that was
It
great.
might not hurt to just add a little tiny line at the very end of that, know your evacuation routes in plural.
And I have, that's a great point. I have probably over 25 PowerPoints that I've done and they all are a little bit different. A lot of them have the same slides. And I'm trying to get kind of away from making them all similar, like sticking at first 5 feet instead of more talking about, but I'm open to the questions about that. So maybe putting a slide at the end that says, here's your resources for these other things.
Right.
You know,
That'd
adding
be great.
resources.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for all the feedback. This is really good. Like I said, this is just draft form, so it's not ready to go. And yeah, I'll add all those suggestions.
Because with evacuation, aren't we supposed to wait until we're told how to evacuate versus having established evacuation routes?
Are you talking about routes or time of when to evacuate, or?
I'm talking about time, routes, I'm sorry.
Routes.
Were you talking about time?
So
both.
Both,
yeah.
okay.
Do we have time to talk about, I don't know if we're on schedule or what are
We have 20 minutes. Do we have, the things we have left on the agenda are talking about mentorship, grant update. I don't know if you've got anything.
I just have a
to say.
few update
Okay,
announcements.
and then pretty much wrapping up.
Yeah,
So
I
I
just
think,
had the
I mean,
one question.
this is a great conversation.
Oh, no, it's a great conversation.
Yeah, I'd rather stay on this if everybody's okay with it.
Yeah, okay, yeah, I can answer that question. So with evacuations and emergency management, city or county will tell you both the same. In a community where you see those big red gates that say fire lane or fire access only, those are not for you guys to get out. Those are for us to get in, okay? And so the myth is, oh, they're gonna open these gates, we're gonna come out this way. No, what you guys need to do is go in the way you normally go in, go out the way you normally go out. The reason is there's a couple reasons. Number one, in evacuation, it's usually pretty hectic and smoky and hot and dark, and you are gonna know your route because you've done it a million times, right? And so the last thing we want you to do is to go down a street that you have never been down before, or into the forest on a 2-track road that you've never been in on before, because we don't know you're out there. If we can route you the normal way you come in and come out, that is best practices. You've done it, you know where it is. If you need evacuation signs, Project Wildfire has some for your community, so we can get that taken care of. Those gates are for us to get in. The reason is if you have 200 people coming out one way, how are we going to get our apparatus in? We're not, we have to wait until you guys get out. So we open those back gates so that we can go in one way, and that's what they're for. Now, that's not to say in some type of situation where if there's a sheriff deputy or Ben PD or somebody saying the gate's open, they're routing you this way, follow their directions. That can be used. It's not meant for that. Your evacuation is to go out the way you came, but just know that be open to whatever law enforcement is telling you to do, because they're all talking. They've all got radios. They know what the plan is in the emergency evacuation center. So please follow them and follow your routes in and out. So great question. As far as time, I hope everybody is signed up with emergency alerts or the DeschutesAlerts.org. You might not get a get ready, which is the first one, right? These alerts do not go in progression or succession. They don't do that. They go from whatever we know at the moment to whatever now is happening to whatever now is happening. So it might be you get a level 2. And that comes on your phone, your email, a phone call. You can sign up however you want to be contacted. I'm signed up to be contacted all 3 ways. So email, text, and phone, and they do work. And then when it's done, they'll contact you those same 3 ways again. So it's really nice to have that. Please note if you have people in your home that have mobility issues or troubles or concerns that you want to leave a little bit earlier. So that's your neighbors. If you have a neighbor that doesn't have anyone and you know they're moving a little bit slower, then you might want to get them out on the very first notification you get. Better be safe than sorry. If you have pets, please have a plan for your pets too. I know a lady in Paradise who tried to grab 13 cats and put them all in her car. That didn't work out. So yeah, it's have that plan with carriers and know what your plan is. So, yep.
Great, thank you.
You talk about evacuations though, and if you have only 2 outlets, inlet outlets, and the fire's coming from one, and you've got 1,700 homes going out one entrance, shouldn't you have alternative roads out of your, because otherwise they're all gonna get there, and it's gonna get jammed up.
And that's worst case scenario and rarely does happen. So what's going to happen is more than likely is that people are going to leave on the first one if they get it. Some people are gonna leave on second, some people are gonna be on third. So what we're seeing in evacuations is like all of a sudden is worst case scenario, which yes, it can happen. It happened in Paradise. But we also had a lot of other factors against us at that time. So you are going to be routed the same way and you're gonna take your turn. Those subdivisions, before those subdivisions get put in, they have to be signed off on fire department for access and water supply. Meaning we know how many homes are in there, we know your evacuation's out. We will not sign off on plans unless 1,700 people can get out. And so the roads are wide enough for reasons like that. So the best thing is to go the way the fire's not coming, and more than likely you'll be fine. Yeah, good question.
You said something in the training last Saturday that's been awesome. I've been sharing it with the DRW neighbors. Is that for a neighborhood like DRW with one way in, one way out, because we can't count Buck Canyon Road.
Right.
They would just pave that, that'd give us 2 ways out.
Yeah.
But I love what you said that DRW should just consider yourselves on level 1 all year, like
Yes.
all the time.
Yeah,
And then
summertime,
we get-
you're always on level 1, ready to go.
We're always on
whenever.
level 1, ready to go, have our to-go box ready to go.
Yep.
And then when you get a level 1 from whoever, if you can get it,
Yeah.
you're out of there.
Yeah.
Like,
And-
don't wait for.
And
level
that is
Yeah.
community specific, so
Yeah.
think about where you live.
Right.
You know, you might not need to leave on an evacuation, be ready the first one you get in the middle of town or, somewhere else. But for your area, because of the hazards you guys have and the limited access in and out, you definitely want to consider yourself all the time in summer on alert to be ready to go. And that's scary to say, but it's true. That's where we live.
And I just wanna add, next month, at our Project Wildfire meeting, Nathan Garabay is doing a evacuation presentation. So, we'll be able to have another discussion surrounding that specifically. So if you want.
This is gonna be next month here?
That's at our Project Wildfire meeting
That's on the 21st.
on the 21st,
At
yep,
8 a.m.
8 a.m. at the downtown, county building. It's 1300 Northwest Wall in the Allen Room.
Will that be on Zoom also?
Yes. Yeah. Do you get our Project Wildfire?
I think
updates?
so.
Okay.
I'll
Yeah,
be out of
it's in
town,
the
but I can
agenda.
Zoom in, yeah.
Perfect.
I have Heather's notes.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Heather Miller from Office of the State Fire Marshal just had a few things she wanted me to relay to you guys. Thursday, April 25th from 1 to 4 is the Wildfire Home Protection Strategies Workshop we all teach in Camp Sherman. So again, Camp Sherman's is April 25th, 1 to 4 p.m. And then on Sunday, April 28th, 1 to 4 p.m. is a wildfire preparedness fair in Madras at the fire station there. So we did Bend a few weeks ago, now Madras' turn, and that's 1 to 4 again on Sunday, April 28th. On Friday, May 3rd, Sunday through, what is she? Oh, the Home and Garden Show, that's right, at the fairgrounds, starting Friday, May 3rd, going through Sunday. The co-ops, we have a fire prevention co-op, Central Oregon Fire Prevention Co-op. We will be there and we'll have a booth on home hardening, defensible space, fire resistant plants. We'll have a 45-minute mini class on each of those topics, each day from 2:30 to 3:15. Does anybody want me to repeat that? Because I will. Okay. And then the last one was Saturday, May 11th, 1 to 4 p.m. is the Wildfire Preparedness Fair in La Pine at the fire station. So super excited to get down there and work with them.
What time is the Project Wildfire presentation on the 21st?
Those meetings are always from 8 a.m. to 9:30 on the 3rd Tuesday of the month.
Melissa, I'm just gonna add something, because Greg and I were just talking about this for DRW. If neighborhoods have the old fashioned message board somewhere with a little glass over it, if you have those, it's a great place to put some of this information.
Yes.
So the DRW one is at the River Country Store, which we just found out we got the key, and so we're gonna try to put some in there.
Let me know.
Because that'll be anybody that pulls in there will get that information.
Yeah, I know some of our volunteers dropped off some of those brochures there at the store, so it'd be good to put one of those
And they
up
said
there.
they'd love to have stuff in that.
Okay.
But I just found out.
Yeah, if any of you have those,
Yeah.
let us know, fire department, whatever your agency is, we can get you those things to hang up. Thank you.
And then Kevin, you had some.
Yeah, just a few updates here. So, I put the 2024 qualified pool list on our Google Drive. It's under the Forester folder. So if folks want to take a look at that, I can always send that out upon request. So if you would like to get that list of vendors, we have 17 on the list right now. We use that qualified pool to expedite some of our contracting processes, but it also provides a really good list for the county of the active vendors that are available to do fire mitigation work. And then I also added the noxious weed presentation on there and the noxious weed list into that folder. And then it's under the agencies, right, in the Google Drive, I believe.
Yeah.
So if you get into the Google Drive, you should see a list of folders. There's one folder, and there's not too much in there right now, but it just has agencies, and one says Deschutes County, and then I put some resources in there.
Do you need the link to email the link?
It'd be great.
Yeah, I think we need to update whoever needs the link to get into the drive.
Can you provide the link and then I can just put it in the minutes?
Sure.
I think
Oh,
that would be great.
Yeah.
But they mainly do fire mitigation,
So Robin will
like,
send it to you.
or helping people
Send- yeah,
if they
send the
need
open
trees
access ones.
removed or those.
Oh,
kind
yeah,
of
these are
things.
all sorts. We've kind of listed all the type of work for our purposes, it's more fuel mitigation, but a lot of these companies have certified arborists and things like that, so they can help with all forest and vegetation management.
Okay.
Wasn't there a class recently where you guys were training landscapers?
So our fire protection, home fire protection strategies workshop, we call it WHOOPS because that's what those are the acronyms. So we call it the WHOOPS class. The WHOOPS class, yes, we are trying to reach out to landscapers. We had a landscaper class, which actually I think all of us instructors learned more than they probably did. It was awesome. It was so good. So we're trying to.
Did those people get put on the qualified list, or is that different?
No,
I think it's different.
So again, this list is really, they go through an RFP process where they get onto
So they have to show
onto a list.
qualifications.
So they essentially have to show, it's almost vetting for insurance for the most part. It's just saying that they're qualified to do the work and they have the proper insurance to work for the county. So it's a good list to share because, we have pretty high standards for insurance, so.
Yep. Okay, but your group that you trained, how many people showed up?
I think there was probably 38 or 40, and it was from all over. Like we had some City of Bend, landscaping people. We had, it was awesome. So we got them qualified to get CEs for their landscaping business if they came and took our class. So that's how we got them there because we have to get them there somehow. And then we're also doing some insurance agents, we're doing realtors, and we're trying to get underwriters right now for insurance. We're trying to have it. So if you know any, let me know because we're trying to reach out to them. But yeah, that's what the classes are for.
Great, thank you.
And then I have a question for the group, basically. So last month, we decided to start recording meetings. When I get these meetings recorded, it's really hard to share the file because it's really big. So for Project Wildfire, what I do is I upload it to YouTube. That way, if someone wants the meeting, I can just send them the link and it's super easy. We could potentially start a category under the Project Wildfire's YouTube channel for these meetings if we want to save them there. So I didn't know if anyone was opposed to that because I know we were going to try and get them on the drive, but if we can post the links on the drive, that might be a little simpler. I just was wondering what everyone thought of that.
Whatever's not as much work for you.
It's pretty easy for me to record and upload to YouTube because I can do that in the background while I'm working.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm down with that, because sometimes I don't make the meetings, so I like to be able to, that's what I do, is I can't make the actual meetings, so I'll go and watch it on YouTube, so.
Okay.
Yeah, that's super easy because anyone can access it from a phone or a desktop computer or a laptop.
Yeah, and it's not more difficult for me to do it that way.
That'd be awesome.
And the Google Drive seems cumbersome sometimes. I have trouble in there and I get error messages that said I don't remember exactly what it said, but it was like I didn't have the whatever I needed, the credential to be in an area. Yeah, access. And I was confused. It's like I really had trouble. I was looking for something in particular. I was looking for the home hardening slides and I don't think I ever did.
I think we should red flag that for the next one, where maybe we can figure out how that we make this easier for people, because
Yeah.
you're not the only one. And I would like, I'm sensing that from a lot of people, and I'm one of them.
Yeah, so
It's kind of difficult.
I'll start a category for the PWNC, all the acronyms, under the Project Wildfire YouTube, so cool, find those. Great.
Kevin, did you have anything on grants?
Nothing really right now. You know, we ended our community, right, BLM Community Fire Assistance Grant. That has ended, so we're reviewing applications right now. We want to have final decision by the end of the month on that. So there were some good applications, so we are going to try and make a thorough review with that. We have the dumpsters being utilized right now. We had 18 communities signed up for that, so I think that's going to be a pretty effective program that we can use in the future. I have requested to allocate more funding with our Oregon State Fire Marshal grant towards our fuel reduction grant this fall. That I would like to keep that consistent, to have that every fall. So hopefully we'll have an increased funding for that. I don't know the amount yet, but we are going to try, and based on what we've had for demand in the last 2 seasons, I would like to increase the funding for that. And that's kind of what I have on grants right now. I did have one update on the wildfire hazard map. They are going to release, they've gone through a few iterations with working with each of the counties on the map, and they're going to reissue the map the week of April 28th to the county planners. So we'll get to see that map again, and then we can comment on it and show any anomalies on the map. I think the idea would be to have all that feedback in by June 28th. So they're starting to come up with a timeline on that map, but that's kind of where it's at right now. They're reissue it to the counties.
I'm sorry, Kevin, is that the map that rates the level of risk?
Yeah, it's called the wildfire hazard map now. They
Okay.
changed it to hazard.
It's just saying the fire marshal's office.
The word risk out.
I know DRW is just hovering under a number that barely let some of us still be insured. But a lot of people lost their insurance.
It's supposed to be decoupled from insurance companies.
Sure.
What does that mean exactly, decoupled? Like,
It's essentially they can't use it to come up with your insurance premiums or, decide on whether you can receive insurance or not. They use a lot of other models out there, and, from some of the discussions, it sounds like a lot of the aerial imagery is used too. So I don't know if the map's really buying them much on those decisions anyway.
okay.
So
Looking at the new map, I kind of wish we would use that now, because a lot of it got changed. And you guys will see it. It's interesting. They went from 5 different categories to 3, so you'll see that. They had no risk, low risk, moderate, high, and extreme. Look, no risk is just ridiculous. I think we all know why. We're all at risk for something. And then extreme, what's really the difference between high and extreme? I mean, really, if you lose your home, you lose your home. So, so there's only gonna be the 3 this time.
Would you consider, if you're in a high risk area, to, like you advised DRW, would you suggest that your community just always be on level 1 during the summer?
I mean, I always think I overplan for everything. So I would think that that's just a great state of mind, not necessarily you have to say it or put it in a brochure, or, make it black and white, but I think educating people that where they live is actually, you do have a hazard and this is why, and always having that heightened state of awareness, not being scared, but being educated, is always a good idea.
All right, well, we got a couple minutes left. So we did not go over the mentorship, but but the question is anybody available to mentor? Is anybody a neighborhood who would like to have somebody from this group mentoring them?
And so for some of the new people, what mentoring, basically, if you are a community that's becoming Firewise, or you guys have questions and you're just stalling out for whatever reason it is, or you have questions, we can set you up with a person that's already done this and been through it. So that's what that mentorship is. And then if you have time, mentorship should not be looked at as a huge commitment. This is literally a phone call. When I talked with Juan, I asked him how many people he mentored, and he's like, oh, I've talked with 3 or 4, but it's all done on the phone or over a Teams meeting. I don't have to commit a lot of time. I'm just sharing my information and my, what I know. So if you are a community that says, hey, I'm kind of in that same fuel type, I have the same issues, I'm more than willing to talk with you, then let us know and we can put you on the list.
I'd love to have a mentor.
Okay, awesome. When where are you, sisters?
Sisters, yeah, so
Okay.
we could, that would be helpful if someone's sister
Yeah,
areas,
no,
so.
definitely. We do have some sisters people, I think. Yeah, we'll work on that. Okay, cool, yeah.
So I had a question on, we have a neighboring community, it's like, is there an easy way to find out whether they're fire-wise? And how to reach out to them if they're not?
Yes.
I mean, I think it's.
Yeah, if you go into the.
It is,
You
but I
go to
don't.
the NFPA, you can go to
There's a
Southern Project.
Yeah, I
Scroll in on the area.
On that.
You
I just don't know how updated
Yeah,
it is.
you
Yeah.
can get the list of who the Firewise communities are, but the spatial layers are, not comprehensive, I would say.
Yeah.
Yeah, and what's the maximum number of houses that can actually be in a fire-wise neighborhood?
2,500.
2,500, okay, because I think when we first started, it was 200 is what Greg thought.
I think in an area like Deschutes River Woods, you've got completely different issues from the riverside to the railroad side. And so having the smaller groups of Cheyenne Road neighborhood could be one neighborhood for Firewise. You all work together because you all share the same risk, but you're gonna have a little bit different hazards or concerns.
Right.
So a little bit smaller could be okay. I mean, we
Okay.
don't wanna just all go vigilante, but
Right.
if we do have some that have different needs, I think it'd be really good to split it up a little bit and have that one person to contact for each one.
Yeah, great.
Great, so I think we're gonna wrap up and adjourn, but the next meeting is May 16th, same time, 2 here in this room. And then after that, it's always the third Thursday of the month.
I do have one update on that.
Okay.
The HVAC is going to be replaced in this building.
Okay.
And that is gonna start April 30th.
Okay.
So I'm not 100% certain, but there might not be cooling or ventilation in this room for the next meeting. Try and.
I know, will we be allowed to be in this room?
Yeah.
Hopefully it's just a cold day. Will we be allowed to come to this room, or is the building?
Yeah,
open?
well, you'll be able to use it, we've been told we can use space heaters and stuff. In the spring, it might not be the worst time of year for that to occur, but,
Can you open these windows, or are they sealed?
they're sealed. I'll try and find out more information
Yeah,
on
if you
that.
could, that'd be great.
But the HVAC system in this building is desperately needs to be replaced, so. Never a good time to do that.
Right.
Did anybody
And then I
have-
put some materials back there because I had some requests from people that would be here at the meeting, so feel free to take whatever you need. I also put some fire-free flyers out there, so you can take a bunch. There's 200 stacked there, so I can get more if I need more, but.
And then I brought some of these more for the goats, if anybody didn't get one last time. And then these are some that I've just been carrying around. This is about the new brochure about the plants, fire-resistant plants. And this is prepare your home for wildfires, reduce wildfire risk. Anybody want anything?
I have a lot more of the fire resistant.
You've got tons of these.
I have tons of those.
Anybody wants?
Cards.
Yeah, anybody wants these? I have like a
Alright, thank you, everyone.
Yeah, thank you, you guys.
Yeah, for sure.